And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. Here, coming to you live from our regular basement studios or living room studios or wherever else that might be. Once again, I am not Polly. For the second week in a row, I think. We've had a little bit of a hiccup here as we start the show, but we'll get right into that. No worries here.
Yeah, I kept waiting for Jeff to type in the magic word "go,"
which I did 3 times.
It came across my screen just now. So.
Okay, a little delay in that. All right.
Don't know what's going on there. Yeah, but, it's always good to switch up the batting order every once in a while. Right? We'll let Case start things out and kind of stumble through the opening monologue, and then say, Case, we're going to sit you down for a minute and bring you back for scheduling and Twitter.
See, okay. I just never know how to broach it because I never know what the exact reason is that you didn't start.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know how to hand it off to him. Is he here? Is he not here? It's always just a mystery to me.
I just think somebody, maybe Jeff should just say, go!
Yeah, well... Yeah,
that would eliminate any type of. Well, anyway, yeah, we'll work on that.
Trying to have some sort of modicum of pseudo sort of professionalism, maybe. I don't know.
On this podcast.
Yeah, I know, but baby steps, right?
You're dreaming high, aren't you? There, but you got a 4 out of 5 normal in the house today. Daryl sent kind of a cryptic message. She had friends coming in town this morning. So I don't know what's going on there, but obviously the friends took priority over us. That's fine. No problem there. It happens to all of us from time to time. I just hope she doesn't owe the friends money. There you go. Right. But we do have Case and Jared in here, also Jeff and myself, and let's kind of go start it out maybe a little bit with Case here, a little bit. Casey, we were talking a little bit earlier about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine here. All of a sudden... California's getting ready to give everybody who wants a shot to get one, and Johnson & Johnson says, guess what? You're getting 90% less. Kind of interesting in our nation's largest state, huh?
Well, I think it's kind of everybody's in the same boat. Most states are going to the everybody 16 and older can get theirs. I think Kentucky starts that on Monday for that opening. Most states are now at that point, and Kentucky, being the smaller state that it is, has had a pretty steady supply of the Moderna and Pfizer 2-shot doses, and Texas, California being much larger states are kind of depending on a lot of those single doses to help them get through the much larger populations that they have. And just a little hiccup in manufacturing. It happens all the time across the globe. Everywhere there's hiccups in manufacturing, and unfortunately, due to the time-sensitive nature of this manufacturing, that put a damper on a lot of people's plans. So it is what it is. They'll get it sorted out, and I think that we're still plenty on track to have. I think the current projection, widely accepted, is that by the end of June, every American adult that wants the vaccine will have had the opportunity to get the vaccine. So I don't think that this stops that.
And we were kind of discussing that pre-show that trying to think of who we knew that had Johnson & Johnson shot. And I think we came up with David Watson. So David, if you're listening today, go ahead and chime in if you can, or just raise your hand or whatever you can do. We'll find out for sure. Somebody who did have his second shot yesterday, and got to check with him and see how he's feeling today, is Jared Anderson. Jared, running a fever, sleepy?
No fever and no major soreness here. I got the Pfizer for clarity yesterday for a second dose. A little tired yesterday and took a pretty long nap and slept well throughout the night. Shoulder's a bit sore, more sore than the first round, but I mean, it's nothing than, I guess, a strong person punching me in the arm, and it's just, in the recovery period, but I can still go out and do my daily business, and I have enough energy to go out, walk around, and may try and hit the gym later, seeing how I feel.
There you go. Another success story.
So you,
Chuck there on the virus for Pfizer, huh?
so you got Pfizer, so you're sticking random P's at the beginning of words now?
Let's do it. Make sure that that P is there in front of Cardinal couple, and
That's right.
it'll be good.
I was always told that a PH makes the F sound, but apparently a PF also makes the F sound.
Apparently,
So
yeah.
Interesting semantics there for sure. We could do a whole new podcast just on what letters mean when they're in different combinations together.
Oh, I'm sure there are podcasts out there that on that exact thing.
Just not worrying about any of that stuff at all because he's on vacation next week. Leaving the city to go buy some steaks out in Omaha, from what you were saying, huh?
Yeah, of course, the UofL volleyball is playing out there in the NCAA tournament, and I was kind of bummed I was going to miss it. Just would be the first time since 2009 that I was going to miss first or second round tournament matches. There may have been one year in there. I think they went to Milwaukee that I may have missed that, so I may have missed one in there, but. This is going to be the first time I was going to miss since then otherwise. And, I got in touch with Sarah Petkovic, who's the director of operations, and she's going to get me on the pass list. There are no tickets available to the general public to the first couple of rounds. So she's going to get me on the pass list. I'm going to get to go out there. And, there's still going to be social distancing and all of that. So I'm assuming they're going to do some sort of bubble thing. So I won't be able to really interact with the team or the team group much, but get a good chance to go out there and watch some volleyball, cheer them on. So I'm excited.
This will be a kind of long road test for the electric car as well, sir, as you'll be plotting out your road map to be able to.
It's about 10, 11 hours maybe to Omaha driving normally. I figured it'd be about 12 for me in the electric with having to stop and charge. Stops are pretty quick, but they do add up a little bit. It's an opportunity to stretch my legs, get a bite to eat, chill out a little bit is always nice. So it shouldn't be a challenge. The first leg is the worrisome one. I got to get to the first supercharger westbound on I-64 is in Mount Vernon, Illinois, in central Illinois. So that's a pretty good haul for one charge. But I can make sure that I'm fully charged at home before I leave. And shouldn't have too much trouble with that. The rest are closer hops, so it's not a big deal.
He's got the power. He's got the power.
Yeah, I was shocked to find that Evansville doesn't have a supercharger.
That is very interesting. I would have thought that for sure there would have been one.
North of Evansville. Yeah, along I-64, right at Evansville. I would have thought there would have been, but at least not yet.
I have to ask, Jeff, while we're talking about electric cars and the supercharger network, have you watched CGP Gray's video about driving through the desert and just hoping for the best?
Yes.
I would implore everyone else.
It's a long video.
Listening to look up. Yeah, but it's worth it.
It's great.
He elects to drive through the Mojave Desert, along the loneliest road in America.
Yeah. And he's
in an electric car.
He's stopping at campgrounds to use the electric hookups at campgrounds and stuff. Like, it's really brilliant. And he's just a fantastic presenter anyway, and on whatever material he's covering. But yeah, it's really entertaining. It was a loaner Model X, interesting.
Far more effort than Jeff is willing to put in, since at those RV charging spots he had to stop for about 24 hours to get a full charge.
Yeah, it would probably those are two-phase 40 or 50 amps. Probably would have been 8 hours to get a full charge there.
Yeah, that's a chore.
Yeah, it's a long stop. Yeah.
And we worry about the gas prices dropping 10 or 15 cents a gallon. Yeah. It's a whole new world. And everybody else on the electric car phase, I guess one day soon we'll all be there. It's hard to say, really. But
and there are obviously ways to handle a Tesla in that region. It's just kind of a roundabout. You kind of have to arc up to the right. It kind of covers that in that video. There is a path that you can go that has regular superchargers on it, but that straight shot that's like this two-lane highway to the middle of the desert doesn't have any on there, and he elected to do that anyway as an adventure. So Yeah.
Let's certainly hope there isn't a 2 or 3 hour traffic delay on I-64, sir, on your way out.
That doesn't
That
really
could be
affect it
fatal.
because if it's sitting there doing nothing, it doesn't actually really use the energy. So
He's 2 steps ahead of the ball game.
yeah,
He's got it covered. So, with all that in mind, let's go ahead and now that we've covered electricity and viruses, what else do we need to get into before we get on to scheduling and Twitter? We have to get back on track here.
yeah, we are a sports show.
Of UofL Women's Sports. Yes, it is a podcast that covers that.
In name, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with this crew up here, it's just like trying to herd kittens sometimes, but let's try to see get back in some kind of order. I'm probably the instigator as well, but let's go ahead and get Case to jump in here with a little scheduling and Twitter information for us.
Yeah, so today, track is down in Knoxville at the Tennessee Relays. Hope they're not experiencing the same thunderstorms that are currently rolling through and scheduled to be here all day. Otherwise, they could be in for a long one. I believe that they already had some results coming in this morning when I was on Twitter. So, and that one's hot and heavy in action. Men's golf at the Aggie Invitational in College Station, Texas. Obviously hosted by Texas A&M there. Field hockey is taking on the Blue Devils of Duke. That one's in Durham at 1 p.m. On ACC Network Extra. Baseball going to try and get in the second game of their series against Florida State today. They won on a walk-off last night. That one's at 1 p.m. also on the ACC Network Extra. They'll try and play in between the rain and hopefully avoid some lightning. Women's soccer hosting Tennessee. That game canceled, as we've talked about a little bit. Various reasons there, but we talked about before the show that women's soccer are unlikely to make the NCAA tournament at this point, so canceling this game doesn't really do much other than make them miss a game. Softball taking on Georgia Tech, the second day of that series, the third game. That game announced at 7 p.m. That announcement was made at around 10 today. It was a late announcement, but they will have video for this one, unlike yesterday afternoon's doubleheader game. Also tonight at 7, Racing Louisville FC gets their inaugural season underway. They'll take on Orlando Pride, I believe. The game's on Paramount Plus. If you subscribe to that streaming service, it is not one that I have. So I'll just have to keep up with that one on my own. But it should be exciting. Hopefully that they can avoid the weather as well. And Amina Ekic, the hometown hero, can get her professional career underway. Tomorrow morning, men's golf continues the Aggie Invitational. Softball wraps up their series against Georgia Tech with a game scheduled at noon, also on ACC Network Extra. Women's tennis takes on Clemson at noon. That one's at home. Men's tennis takes on Georgia Tech. That one is in Atlanta. That one has video listed, but not women's tennis. So interesting there. Baseball versus Florida State, scheduled to wrap up that series tomorrow at 4 p.m. The final game in that series is scheduled to be on ESPNU. A bunch of days off through the midweek, as a lot of the midweek sports are now wrapped up. Surprised that they don't have that softball game. That maybe they didn't try to get that back in with Kentucky this week, but Kentucky must not have an opening. Women's golf heads to the ACC Championships on Thursday. That's scheduled to go through Sunday. Had to scroll down to check and see when it actually ended. Also on Thursday, volleyball will get their NCAA tournament kicked off. They'll play at noon Eastern time, so that'll be, I think, 10 in the morning in Omaha. And they'll take on the winner of San Diego versus A&M Corpus Christi. That is a team I would not have expected to make the tournament. Very much an automatic qualifier there. With the NCAA tournament, they are knocking this thing out quickly. They're going to play the entire tournament in 10 days.
Yep.
First round starts on the 14th and championship on the 24th. So
which
if local advances, you won't have to take that many more vacation days to stay, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be off this week anyway, which is why I said it out there. But yeah, I actually booked a hotel out there for actually, I think, 6 days with the intention of staying through like Monday and Tuesday, which would be third and fourth rounds. So, we'll see. Hopefully they keep winning and I don't have to cut my reservation short.
Yeah, maybe you can even extend it.
Yeah.
Case, what are they showing us on as far as television for these opening rounds?
I know that the opening rounds will be streamed, but they will not be announced.
They actually will be.
Did they finally changed course already?
They changed course on that last night. They added commentary. They're going to add commentators for the first 3 rounds, I think is what it was. Yep.
I wrote in the article that they couldn't make it a month without stepping in it again.
Right.
Like, come on. Jeez.
Yep.
Well, good. It's good that they are that they'll now be announced. The television listing is not indicated on the bracket schedule here. So I'm not sure exactly what that is on, but I'm sure that announcement will come out a little bit closer to.
It is ESPN streaming is what it'll be for the first few rounds.
Right, we looked that up last week. So yeah that'll be on ESPN 3. Just go to watchespn.com or in the app, and you'll be able to catch the game there.
All right then.
That's only through Thursday.
And that just got us through Thursday here. So go ahead and continue on with the schedule and Twitter information for us.
Friday, a big day. Women's golf continues the ACC Championship. Rowing heads to Oak Ridge, Tennessee for the Big Ten Invitational. Not sure what Big Ten school will be considered the host in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, but that is what it is. Track heads down to Gainesville, Florida for the Tom Jones Memorial. Men's tennis hosting Virginia Tech at 1:30. Lacrosse hosting Syracuse at 3 p.m. Neither of those listed as having video, but maybe that'll change. Baseball heads to Charlottesville. They'll take on Virginia at 6 p.m. on Friday, and softball will host Duke starting at 7 p.m. on Friday for their 4-game series over the weekend. And then Saturday, pre-show, you'll have women's golf continuing the ACC Championship, rowing continuing the Big Ten Invitational, and track continuing the Tom Jones Memorial, with everything else coming after that on Saturday. As for Twitter, I tweet is at best case scenario, BST case scenario. My last tweet was about a random deck chair in Arizona that prevented the Reds from getting a home run on the leadoff pitch, but it is what it is. Major League Baseball instituting a review and still getting calls wrong. We love to see it. Jeff tweets is at Jeff McAdams and at Card Couple Radio. Jared's at Mr. Anderson Jared. Paulie is at Cardinal Couple. Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. And as always, be sure to check out the right side of the site for a list of all of the UofL women's athletics accounts to keep up with the sports that don't have live stats or live video. They do a good job of tweeting those out. So there you go.
Absolutely so. And something that many of us figured we'd never see in our lifetime. The Reds are atop the division. How long will it last? How long will they stay?
I think they're atop the entire league.
They're 6-1, and then second place team is 6-2. So let's celebrate the moment while we still can.
Such
so
optimism.
Celebration. Yeah.
Such confidence.
Last season I made it into the top 3 in my fantasy baseball league, like 2 weeks into the season, and I screenshotted it because I knew that was as high up as I'd be for the remainder of the year. So you got to take wins where you can get them.
Things just definitely out of control in Cincinnati. You've got chimps running around out there, trying to crash bars and buy tickets to Reds games, and what are you gonna do, huh?
Their basketball team doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, we've said that for years about Cincinnati, but anyway.
Sure.
As we move on in and take a look at, and we've got actually a lot of areas we could kind of start today with. I'm going to go with softball, since we did have softball action yesterday. What was originally starting out to be one game with a time change, where the Cards were going to start off early down in Atlanta against Georgia Tech with an 11 o'clock game. They played that one. They got that one done, and they said, hey, you know what? The weather's good. Let's go ahead and play a second one. Unfortunately, and I'm not sure if I still understand this or not, you already had the ACC Network extra crew there. They probably had some news or idea that they were going to play a second game. Why couldn't they just stay there and broadcast it?
Yeah, the best I can guess is that because I think they're still doing remote remote broadcast teams for most of these. The best I could guess is that the broadcasters already had something else scheduled for that afternoon. But yeah, I don't just show the game with no commentators. I don't care.
We've certainly seen that before with other schools and stuff. So, but anyway, and then maybe they couldn't sell the airtime in time to make it worthwhile to do it financially. And wouldn't you know, Daryl, who could probably explain this to us, is not with us this morning. So we'll kind of take a rain check on that and maybe get an explanation on the strange circumstances of let's show the first game. Oh, we lost. Well, forget it. Let's not show the second game where we win. Yeah. Philosophy there.
So that second game doesn't count then, right?
Yeah.
If nobody saw it, it doesn't count?
Yeah.
It's just like a tree in the forest. If you don't see it fall, it never happened. That's right. Cards did win the first game, though. Fortunately for them, as they looked great for 6 innings, and then all of a sudden things kind of fell apart on Louisville as they, all of a sudden we're looking at a 6-5 game here, and had to return to reliever Gabby Holloway to replace Taylor Roby, who gave up a grand slam home run to Georgia Tech to get them within 1 run. But that was in the bottom of the 7th, if I remember correctly there. But Gabby Holloway came in and shut the door on them. But the Cards did some good things in this one. And in case you had the write-up on it, we'll let you kind of start at the dialogue on this, as they did win the first game against the Texters.
Yeah, the Cards opened that 7th inning with an error, and then got 2 quick outs after a couple runners got on. So you're thinking, runners on first and second. We got 2 outs. That's okay. We're fine. And then it wasn't fine. They gave up another single, load the bases. Taylor Roby hits somebody to bring in a run, and then gives up a grand slam to, wouldn't you know, it's somebody with the last name Stanford. So it goes. That made it 6-5. All 5 of those runs unearned, because that the first out, what should have been an out, was an error. But unearned runs count the same on the scoreboard as earned runs, so it was still 6-5. Coach April elects to bring in Gabby Holloway to close the door. She promptly loads up the count, 3-2, but then does finally get the ground out. So Cards win 6-5. It was a really good thing that they decided to have an explosive inning in the 4th to expand their lead, because that 1 run would not have done it for them had they not. So yeah, they get a win in that first one. Taylor Roby looked really good for 6 innings of the game, and then just got a little bit unlucky in the bottom of the 7th there, but fortunately able to eke that one out.
Yeah, Jared, the Cards got the bats out in the first game. It was a wonderful thing to see. Like Case mentioned, 6-0 at one time. We saw Charlie Butler step into the plate and put one over the fence for a 3-run homer. Some good offensive stats for Louisville in that first game, sir.
Yeah, it's nice to see that, kind of extending on from last weekend, that the offense is starting to find a little bit of a rhythm again. And I think, as Jeff mentioned in our group text yesterday, that Charlie Butler may not be one to strike you as a power hitter, but she's got a couple home runs on the year this year, and she's done some damage in her past couple seasons with the Cards as well. So it was nice to see her help build some momentum. And then Carmen Greenwood really extended her streak again from last weekend and continues to really put the bat on the ball, knock in runs. They brought in a new pitcher, and they're in this, I guess it's about the 4th, 5th inning. And first pitch, Greenwood just takes a crack at it and sends it right down the left field line, knocks in a couple runs. And that's a good way to get a new pitcher feeling a little uneasy in the circle, is first pitch, if you can drive some runs in off of her. So excellent there by the offense. Maybe if they could have added another run or 2, but at the time when you've got a 6-0, 6-1 lead, you're not really thinking much of it until then, where the pitching has kind of struggled, which has not been the issue this year.
And certainly the Cards got bailed out by Holloway there for her efforts. She found out that there was going to be a second game, and she was going to be the starter. How about that? That fly kind of movement there, or like, oh, you did so good pitching that 1/3 of an inning, you're going to get to start. How about that? Didn't start out that great for her, though, Jeff. She kind of got in a little trouble early there. Georgia Tech getting that first inning run on them. But Holloway is a freshman who's come up and done a really good job for Louisville so far. They're given the circumstances and given the conditions, I think.
Yeah, like any freshman in any sport, you expect that they're not necessarily going to come in and be fully contributing right away. She's done a really, really good job with it. She's spent some time in the circle. She's contributed well. She's had some challenges over the course of the season, and this game was similar in that in some respects. But she's a freshman. She's developing. She's learning. She's got a good starting point for us. So I'm excited to see what comes of it. Obviously, we couldn't watch this one because there was no streaming of it. It's a little hard to say too much about what her pitching was like. Not that I'm a great judge of softball pitching anyway, but I'm excited to see how she develops.
I think that certainly being one of those pitchers that'll be counted on in future years for Louisville, I'm excited about that as well. And gosh, guys, what can we say about Taylor Roby? Taylor's just doing it on both ends in the circle and also at the plate. In the second game in the 7th inning, she hits a solo home run to give the Cards a 2-1 lead. Unfortunately, that was the only kind of damage they did. Georgia Tech came back 7th inning. They had some luck as well, tied it up, and then we went 4 innings of no score until Stanford shows up.
Again.
Rivera at the plate. Kind of a disappointing end to that one. And I was following this thing on Stat Tracker, guys. But after the 9th inning, it's one of the most boring things in the world for me to do is wait for things to change on Stat Tracker. So anyway, I gave up on that. But so I did not get to see that final. Kind of glad I didn't. But, hey, go down to you split with Georgia Tech, so the Cards really don't lose anything in the standings that I can tell, do they, Jared?
I think they're still kind of in their same spot, but looking ahead when you've got a series against Duke, who are still sitting kind of like that 4th spot coming up, and then you've got a series against Florida State coming up. I mean, you need to get wins against the lower level teams when you can. I mean, Georgia Tech is now 5-15 in the conference, and they're sitting 11th. So you don't really want to give Georgia Tech a chance to kind of catch up to you because you've got plenty of losses coming ahead. Who knows? Maybe we'll see some nice upsets like we did a couple years ago with the Cards. But I think it's going to be pretty crucial to really win these next 2 in the series and get that conference record up to 10 and 11 and kind of solidify a spot in the top 10 for now.
It would be kind of sad indeed to see us host the ACC tournament and not participate in it. But just taking a look down the road on it, which we bring in Duke for 3 next weekend while Jeff will be at buying steaks in Omaha.
We gotta say something about Duke. I mean, you got to look at this program. This is not an old program,
great.
Right? They've only been around a few years. So
same thing with Clemson.
Yeah.
Clemson's been in existence, 2 years, maybe 3, something like that.
Yeah.
Not long at all. And they are absolutely recruiting well, pounding the heck out of the ball. Duke is not going to be an easy opponent by any means coming in here.
The first full schedule for Duke was in 2018. So, I mean, this is as a program maturity is still a very young program. So I gotta give them credit for that.
So get those wins while you can, Louisville, because after that Duke series, they go up to Kentucky for what we know as 1 game so far. There has been some scuttlebutt, Jared. I think you heard that they might try to play 2 up there at Kentucky.
There's been some talk about maybe looking at doing a doubleheader because you've already got both teams together. If you're Kentucky and you're a top 10 team and maybe you're just thinking, hey, we've got an easy opponent with Louisville, another easy win on our schedule, you may want to play that. But if you're Louisville, who's already kind of struggled quite a bit, sitting at 14 and 16 on the year, with the odds not being likely of pulling off the upset at Kentucky, you may not want to play 2 games and just worsen your record further than it is, because at this point in time, Louisville's not an NCAA tournament team, so just add more losses to your record really isn't going to help at this point. It just puts you further in the hole.
Alternatively, if you're Kentucky, weird things happen in rivalry games. So if you are a top 10 team and expecting to be one of the top seeded teams in the NCAA tournament, it may not be in your best interest to invite the weirdness of a second rivalry game, especially a second rivalry game in a doubleheader, if you can avoid it.
Yeah, because Western Kentucky did upset Kentucky in a walk-off earlier this season, and if you want to rewind 2 years ago when we hosted the Kentucky here at Ulmer Stadium, we did get that walk-off ourselves. So Case makes a really good point, is if you're Kentucky, do you want to risk taking a loss to a team that's not going to make the tournament as of this moment?
And certainly not an easy road for the Cards at all to end the season. They do bring in Florida State near the end of the month for a 4-game series, and we certainly know how strong the Florida State team is. Perennial top 10, top 15 program in the nation. And then guess what? It's 6 games in a row on the road to end this season. Wow, talk about no pressure there, huh, as you travel to Boston College and then end up with the 3-game series at North Carolina before you come home.
It should be 8 games, right?
Yeah, they're 4-game series.
I've read this wrong.
3 days. 3 days, 4 games.
Doesn't surprise me at all. But anyway, an 8-game road stretch then for the Cards there. Boy, I'll tell you, that's a heck of a way for anybody to end the season with such a little team that it has had their struggles on the road a little bit, although they were impressive at Pitt, going up and taking 3 out of 4 against a Pitt team that, obviously isn't that good, guys, let's face it. But the early benefits of playing at home catch up with the Cards on the end of the schedule, so I don't know.
Well,
go ahead.
On the bright side, Paul, you're looking Boston College is last in the ACC at 2-13 with a 6-21 record. North Carolina's just above the Cards right now, 6-8 in the ACC, 10-14 overall. So it's not like we're facing a bunch of top 25 opponents on the road. We are facing some teams that we have a much better shot against, even if it is on the road. And with many of the COVID regulations, you're not playing in front of a full house where the crowd may truly affect you. So if there's a year where you do want to play on the road, it would probably be this year, where the stadiums may be a little more quiet.
Good point indeed, yeah. Good point indeed. Is UNC to end the season, though, that's always kind of those Carolina teams always seem to be pretty good and everything, and UNC maybe be playing their best softball by then. You never really know. So I just don't like the idea of having to play your final 8 on the road. But anyway, I didn't have anything to do with the scheduling, so don't blame me. If we're looking at some honors, maybe we could hand out here a little bit. When you take a look at what Louisville's done so far, obviously they're over halfway through this season. So maybe last week would have been the time to do some mid-season awards for the Cards and stuff like that. Let's just kind of kick it around real quick, guys. If you were going to look at a most valuable player for Louisville right now, does anybody have any others to suggest besides Taylor Roby here? Anybody want to bring that in?
Yeah, you could argue Carmen Greenwood, who's leading the team in batting average, runs scored, hits, doubles. She's 3rd in RBIs, 2nd in slugging percentage. She's only struck out 16 times on the year, which compared to most of the lineup isn't too bad. If you want to argue against Roby's stats, who's 2nd in batting average, leads the team with strikeouts at the plate with 26. Roby does lead the team with the 10 home runs, 31 RBIs, which is a nice mark. But even on the defensive side, Carmen Greenwood out in left field has made some really solid catches. We've seen a couple SportsCenter top 10-esque diving catches that have kept the Cards in some games. So I think there's a bit bit of a battle. It's hard not to go with Roby, who's been your do-it-all player with the pitching and batting, but you could make a strong case for Carmen Greenwood as well. But after that, it's a significant drop-off. I think nobody else on the team is batting above like 280 right now, which is a little bit of an issue.
Michaela Hurst is at 294. But I have a hard time overlooking that Taylor Roby has a OPS that's 300 points higher than Carmen Greenwood's. And she's got 31 RBIs. Carmen Greenwood's been great at the top of the order, taking that spot from Celine Funke. She's doing everything she needs to do. She's getting on base. She's getting extra base hits, and she's stealing bases. But when you've got a player like Taylor Roby that you can count on so much at the plate. I mean, she hit a solo home run in the top of the seventh to take a 2-1 lead, and then Blake Nelliman refused to throw to her in the extra innings last night, or yesterday afternoon. She walked twice in extra innings because they're just afraid that she would do it again and give Louisville the lead. So I think that everybody recognizes the threat she is at the plate. Right, exactly. She will do it again. I think that everybody recognizes the threat she is at the plate, and then she's just as big of a threat to the opposing team in the circle. So I think that as people start to catch the two-way player wave in baseball, the two-way player wave in softball has been here for a very long time, and Taylor Roby is, I think, probably one of the best two-way players in the country.
No doubts on that. So between those two, certainly two very good choices. Then I do have to kind of go with Roby, though. I mean, she's just so clutch and just get in there. And then when batters, go to the plate they want to hit, when the opposing team says, nah, we're just going to go ahead and throw it around you. Frustrating indeed. So how about most talented newcomer? And I'll open that up to freshmen as well as transfers in. Certainly have been some bright spots in the lineup for the Cards on several of those. Throwing some names out there. Michaela Hurst obviously is one that could be mentioned. Taryn Weddle certainly one that could be named. Gaby Holloway has come in and done some fine things. Jen Leonard and LeMound, a newcomer to the team this year. This is a kind of a tougher category to pick than the other. So Jared, most talented newcomer, but most impressive newcomer for you?
Yeah, it's, to me, there's a little debate between Michaela Hurst and Jim Leonard, both who have had some excellence from different aspects of the game, with Michaela Hurst really putting on a good show with her batting. She's second on the team with 5 home runs. The 294 batting average is pretty solid. That puts her third on the team. Looking at RBIs, I think she's got 15, which is second. Slugging percentage way up there. She's third on the team with that. She doesn't strike out a lot, so she does battle at the plate, which is a promising sign. I think at first base she's done an excellent job. Hasn't really done anything, in my opinion, to lose that position at first. I know Holly April was rotating some players early in the season, figuring that out. But then looking at Jen Leonard, she's done a pretty solid job pitching. Unfortunately, she did come in and have to do a lot of pitching against Clemson and Virginia Tech, which put her record not too great. She's got 58 strikeouts, so she's by far leading the team from that category, and her 273 batting average is fourth on the team, and she did log a home run recently. So she's done a pretty fair job too, but with that 3.18 ERA, which is the highest on the team right now, as well as her whip is the highest on the team, I'm going to have to go with Michaela Hurst.
Her whip is the lowest on the team.
Oh, I misread that one. Her ERA is the highest, but her whip is the lowest.
I was gonna say she's been really unlucky with the hits that she's given up that lead to runs, having that highest earned run average. But yeah, lowest whip on the team and lowest batting average against on the team. And like Jared mentioned, highest in strikeouts. So she's given up the most home runs. That's where that comes from. She's a high risk, high reward kind of pitcher. She's either going to get you out or you're going to get a big hit if you put the ball in play. So that's just kind of the way that it is sometimes. I think that if she's obviously got a lot of control. If she can make people put the ball in play without putting so much of a charge into it, she could be a really, really important player for Louisville going forward. It's kind of crazy. Her strikeout per, I don't know what they call it, strikeout per 7 in softball. It's considerably higher than Taylor Roby's. Jen Leonard has 58 strikeouts in 50 innings pitched, and Taylor Roby only has 45 in 90 innings pitched. So she is making people miss the ball a lot. But like I said, when they don't miss the ball, it's usually a problem.
Jeff, anything to add on those two?
I don't necessarily think that she's going to be top of the list, but I'm going to call out Jenna Servey. She basically does not participate in the offensive side of things, but she's been doing some phenomenal work in the infield.
That's one way to say it.
Well,
hitting under 100.
Yeah,
does not participate.
Yeah, okay, being honest, but I think she's doing some really, really phenomenal stuff. She's stretching the category here a little bit too. She is a sophomore, but she's doing some really, really great things. We barely saw sophomores last year, right? She's doing some really great things in the infield, and I think contributing in a lot of ways on the defensive side of things. So I don't necessarily think I would give her the top of the top best player or whatever, but I think you got to call her out as somebody who's doing a lot.
I can certainly make an argument for her as well. Yes, certainly has done some great things for the Cards. I guess maybe one of the questions one has, as we'll kind of round up our softball talk here a little bit, is what has happened to Celine Funky this year? Certainly still fielding with her usual skill and grace and style, but the bat has kind of disappeared on Miss Funky as she comes back for her graduate season game. Jared, any insights on what's going on with her?
I think she's just trying too hard, putting too much pressure on herself. You've got to trust your teammates that they're going to be able to hit the ball and knock in some runs or score some runs where you don't need to do it all. And I think at this point it's a mental game. You start to fall in a slump and your batting average is, what, about 167? So at that point, every time you're going up to plate, you're thinking, can I do this? So she's got to get that kind of funk out of her head right now. And no pun intended on that one. But it's a mental game at this point for her. You've got to be able to get around that. And sometimes you may see when players are struggling at the plate that you'll see them bunt a few times or go back to slap hitting just so that they can see the ball better and make contact. Because once you can get that going, you'll start to see that your swing improves and you're going to be making contact, get hits more often. So hopefully we'll see her kind of revert back to that, because really once she's on the base path, she's going to be able to steal. She's going to be able to round the bases well, get her in scoring position. Someone else comes in, gets the ball to the outfield. Celine Funky's going to score. So she doesn't need to worry about these big hits and multi-base hits, because with her speed, she's going to find a way to score.
Yeah, I think her not seeing the ball well is definitely the way to say it, because she's swinging at everything. Her on-base percentage is only 207. She's only got 3 walks on the season compared to 20 strikeouts and only 13 hits. Just has lost some discipline at the plate or some vision at the plate or something. Like Jared mentioned, she's just trying too hard to make up for that. If over the next few weeks she can just let the game come to her a little bit more, I think it's a little late to try and make that adjustment. But if she can do that, I think she's going to be a lot more productive. She did have a big triple in one of the games yesterday that brought her around the score. So, she's doing what she can. Unfortunately, Louisville's offense almost stranded her at third with a leadoff triple, which would have been absolutely abysmal.
Would have sent Holly into convulsions, that's for sure.
But yeah, I think she just needs to, like Jared said, stop pressing so much and be a little bit more patient at the plate.
And so we do hope that Funky can get back into her groove and bring the funk for the rest of the season out there. Hopefully has a good game today, guys. We move out of softball here, and then let's go to something that happened on Thursday night. And that was under the lights at Cardinal Stadium. The Louisville lacrosse squad went in and played in front of a loud crowd. Really not a lot of people, but I guess a crowd for lacrosse gets kind of dwarfed in the size of Cardinal Stadium, okay? Jared, you were out there. The Cards unfortunately falling 12-10 to number 8 Duke. Kind of a back and forth game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think kind of what hurt Louisville a little bit was allowing Duke to go on a couple runs there. I mean, we saw them respond very well to Duke taking that 2-0 lead early on and just being able to bounce back and take a really commanding, I think it was a 5-0 lead at one point. And then allowing Duke to go on that run to close out the half and go into halftime up 7-6. And that kind of allows Duke to carry the momentum going in the second half, and which that they kind of did, and Louisville pressed a few times and even the score. And I think they took a lead there at one point in the second half again, and then just
10-9.
And then allowing Duke to go on these many runs and score the final 3 goals of the game was a little tough.
This one was a contest, Jeff, where the Cards in both halves gave up the first 2 goals in each half, but in that first half, Allie Hall goes back-to-back with goals. Bella Karstein picks up one. Alex McNichols and Carolyn Blaylock all follow as the Cards go on a 5-0 run, grab that 5-2 lead. And then basically no other type of offense until late in the half when Allegra Catalano gets on the board. In the second half, almost a mirror of the same thing. We give up the first 2 goals. We score 4 in a row. Nicole Peroni playing really, really well in there. And then we go the final 13 minutes with that scoring. Draw controls have a lot to do with that, don't they, sir?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, Dick really dominated draw controls in this one, according to my understanding. And, that essentially makes it a make it, take it sort of game. Which is, it's tough because then you're immediately on defense all the time, and to score you have to force a turnover in some form, either a direct turnover, cause a ground ball and recover it, and it's that's tough to do when you're doing it constantly. That'll wear you out. It's frustrating, but it's also immediately puts you in a dangerous situation on essentially every score. So that's tough to handle.
Definitely hard to handle, especially when you've got a 10-9 lead and then you're powerless to defend it at the end.
And the draw controls for the game were 19-5 in favor of Duke. And so it's like a pretty lopsided stat here.
No doubt about having to start each draw control on defense can certainly wear defense down, Case. This road, of course, it's ACC lacrosse, and every game is a challenge. Every game is a tough one, as the Cards will face Syracuse next Friday and Sunday. Syracuse, one of the top teams in the ACC and the nation. Future team has just been so close so often this year, but they just haven't been able to put the final clamp on things, have they?
Yeah, they get into these games of runs back and forth. Jared mentioned a bunch of the Duke runs, but Louisville went on a few of their own, a 5-0 run and a 4-0 run in the middle of both of the halves. So Louisville just needs to find some more consistency on offense. They actually had more shots than Duke. They had more free position attempts than Duke. They just need to find more consistency because when they get on these runs, they can be really hot. But then as soon as that run is broken, they struggle to keep up the offense or to keep the opposing team out of the goal. You see in the first half against Duke, after that big run by Louisville, the 5-0 run to make it 5-2, Duke eventually, when they broke that run and they scored twice in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's just like the focus just breaks completely when they're knocked off of their, high point of being on a run. So that's something they just really need to focus on is buckling down, like you said, and closing out some of these wins. You saw it when they finally got that win against Virginia Tech. They threatened to let Virginia Tech jump right back into that game and steal it away from them. So it's hard. The opposing team is trying to be really focused. They're trying to go on runs too, but Louisville just needs to find some way. It comes down to the players, really, I think. They just need to find some way to tap into something else when you have a lead, especially late in the in the second half of that game against Duke when you've got a lead. You're leading only by 1. You'd like to try and extend it. You certainly don't want to go 11 minutes without scoring to lose in a tight game like that. So just some sort of mental toughness that they need to find and hold on to some of these games.
As the Cards will try to take on a very good opponent in Syracuse Friday and Sunday of this week. Best of luck to them out there, as these are at the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium, as far as I know, unless they change something. But certainly we wish them the best luck in that. So other areas we kind of want to get into a little bit here, and I'll go ahead and start these next segments out with volleyball, as we know that the Cards are going to be participating in the NCAA volleyball tournament. We know we'll have a representative there in Jeff McAdams and in Omaha. Jeff, I'm not too familiar with the first opponents that they could possibly face here, but what do you think of this team's chances in getting back to another Elite Eight?
It's going to be tricky. There's definitely, looking at the bracket as presented, left versus right on NCAA site. I really kind of, my takeaway is that the left side of the bracket is easier than the right side. Now, you get down that bottom left, you got Nebraska, Baylor, Penn State, Texas. That's a pretty brutal stretch down there, but the upper left, I think, is pretty easy. Louisville's in the upper right side. Second round opponents, our first opponents would be either San Diego or Texas A&M Corpus Christi. San Diego, I've heard of some a little bit. I've heard of A&M Corpus Christi, but those are definitely automatic qualifiers for some of those smaller mid-major conferences. And, I don't anticipate much of a struggle there to move on to the Sweet 16. The other half of that is Towson versus Dayton are playing to play Washington. I would expect Dayton to win that. Dayton's a decent team, mid-major, but high mid-major, and they're a pretty good team in that mid-major. So I would even give them a decent chance to get past Washington. Washington's a very good team. I don't want to take anything away from them, but they're not like one of the they seem a little out of place in those top power teams. So Sweet 16 matchup versus Washington or perhaps Dayton, probably. I think we got a decent chance at that. So, if it's Washington, we've got our work cut out for us, but I think it's doable.
I believe Dayton took Louisville to. Did they take them to 5 in the exhibition that they played earlier this season? It's not. They don't have the stats listed on the schedule. I think they either took them to 4 or 5. I know that they took a set off of Louisville.
So sometimes in those exhibitions they don't. They'll go ahead and play 4 sets, even though the team may win.
So Louisville might have won 4-0.
Right. So I don't recall that for sure, but it's possible.
They played 4 sets against Louisville.
Yeah. I think it
what
may
the
have.
scores of those sets were is a mystery, but they played 4 sets.
Yeah. I think it may have been a case of, okay, we played 3, we won 3. Hey, let's go play another one because we're here and it's an exhibition, and let's get the practice in. So.
Good things ahead for Louisville volleyball as they head down to the Midwestern part of our region to see if they can make another run for grade 8 and better.
If we get through Washington or Dayton or whoever that ends up being, on the other side of the bracket, there's a decent chance we meet up in the Sweet 16 with Minnesota again. So
that'd be the Elite 8, right?
Yeah, in the Elite 8. Yeah, is that what I said? Is that what
you said? Sweet
16. Oh, sorry. Yeah, in the Elite 8, meet up with Minnesota again potentially. So there's possibility. Utah's the other ranked team on that side. Pittsburgh is also in there. Pittsburgh's down a little bit than what they have been in recent years, but they could still make it through, perhaps. So,
spike, serve, and repeat, kids. There you go. Get it done for the volleyball squad as they is trying to cover everything I had planned today, and I thought I was going to have to stretch for time, but we're getting close to it. I did want to kind of mention women's basketball as well a little bit, where the world is swirling around the news that 2 Cardinals have allegedly, reportedly entered the transfer portal. We do have a confirmation on that they did, by the way, even though UofL is not acknowledging that. And of course, the Cards got 2 very good players in. Jared, do the Cards come out ahead on this with the getting in Hall and getting in Ingsler and losing Williams and losing Balagoon? What's your thoughts on this whole transfer process?
Yeah, in terms of Malia Williams, it's probably, for her sake, it's probably in her best interest to transfer just because of how far down she's sitting on the depth chart. She's playing behind several key players, including Olivia Cochran and Liz Dixon. And now that we've got Sydney Shetland coming in, who's kind of a highly touted prospect, her chances of playing time are drastically dropping. So it makes sense for her to want to go somewhere that she's going to be able to make more of an impact on that team and get out there on the court, because nobody wants to sit and ride the bench the whole game. Elizabeth Balagoon, I guess maybe a little more surprising just because of the fact that she's been able to be pretty solid for the Cards and knocking down threes. She's one of the better three-point shooters on the team, and then what she could do on defense with those long arms, being able to block a lot of shots. But she did start losing playing time to Kiana Smith, who stepped up in the back half of the season, especially in the tournament. So that may be another case where she's just wanting to go somewhere where she can have a bigger impact with the team she's on and see more playing time. But I think just in the long run versus who we're getting versus who we're losing, it's overall going to be an increase for the Cards.
Getting a Syracuse girl and getting a Vanderbilt girl case. Emily Easter had great games against us when she played the Cards this year. And from what I've read and heard, that the Cards were heavily in on trying to get Chelsea to come to Louisville instead of Vanderbilt, but lost her out to Vanderbilt when she was a high school senior. And what about these two? I think Ingsler can come in and make an immediate impact. Maybe the jury's out a little bit on Hall still, but anybody who scores 1,000 points in their career can't be set aside, can they?
No, I think that it's a little tough to say about what Chelsea Hall is going to bring this year. There's very limited information about how she would have performed in this past season, since Vanderbilt shut down their season due to COVID earlier in the year, much like Duke did. So just pulled the trigger on that. She's looking to improve her stock, get into a larger market, I would say, Louisville versus Vanderbilt, be on a good team and try and improve her, the buzz around her as she tries to advance her career, obviously. Ingsler, I think, is definitely is kind of the bigger jewel in that transfer season to this point. I think that she'll be a really big addition to Louisville. I think that she's kind of, in addition to Kiana Smith stealing her job, kind of the reason that Elizabeth Balagoon sees another player coming in and says, you know what, I'm probably not going to be getting quite as many minutes as I did last year. So that's just the way it is. I think Ingsler is going to have a really successful opportunity at Louisville. Like you mentioned, some really good games against Louisville. Her best game of the season in terms of her season highs. Most of those stats were against Louisville more than anyone else. On that March 6th game, she scored 21 points in 40 minutes. Took the most field goal attempts that she had all season. She's kind of up and down throughout the season, scoring, as many as 17, 18 points in a lot of games, double digits. And then when she wasn't scoring double digits, she was scoring, in between 2 and 6 points. So kind of up and down. So I think that Coach Walls will be looking to get some more consistency out of her. But if Louisville is able to kind of have the rotating guard tree that they had in this past season, I think that will give her more of an opportunity to be in rhythm in the games that she is, and then sit down, take a break without being pressed too hard in games that she's not having quite as much success.
And Jeff, when we take a look at this transfer portal, I think maybe the big the big surprise to everybody and the big talking point is Syracuse here. My golly, they lost 2/3 of their roster going into the portal here. What is going on with Q up there, buddy?
Man, I wish I knew. I take a pretty easygoing approach to the transfer portal. I think in general it's a good thing, letting players be able to be in control of their own life experience. So I think that's a positive thing. But yeah, you see 10 players going into the portal from one team, and you kind of opens your eyes up a little bit. It says, yeah, basically, like you said, what's going on? Of course, we don't know. We don't have any inside knowledge up there, obviously, but certainly eye-popping to see that.
It is indeed. So we will find out more, obviously, as basketball season rolls in and stuff. And hey, you never know. Maybe Sydney Sutton will come down to Omaha, buddy, and watch the volleyball team play. Get to meet her. You think there's a chance of that?
That's a slim chance, but she just finished setting her school record, like obliterating her school record in shot blocks up in South Dakota. So,
I think you should extend a personal invitation for the whole Shetland family to ride around in your car and go to the event with you. There we go.
Might be an NCAA violation.
Possibly, you just could be that friendly fan from Louisville.
Yeah.
Last but not least, let's do mention that field hockey will be playing Duke today at Duke. And certainly always a fun one to see ex-Louisville head coach Pam Buston go up against current coach Justine Sowery and Meche Pastor, who won the game against Syracuse 1-0 with an overtime goal for the Cards.
Didn't we decide we need to quit singing their praises and start questioning whether they're really necessary for the game? Isn't that when they have a breakout game and do well? Isn't that what we decided last week?
From what I've heard on other podcasts is if you acknowledge the magic that you have in what you say, then it can't be it can't come true. So you have to just kind of let it ride.
Okay.
We'll never be ashamed.
So we talked crap about. I can't say it because then it won't come true. But if you remember what we talked about today, maybe the rest of this series might be a little bit better for a certain player.
I don't remember what we talked about 10 minutes ago, so no worries. As we roll into it, a little bit past the noon hour, so let's go ahead and segue on into any other things we want to bring up before we get into final thoughts, guys. Anybody got anything else pressing that they want to pop out there on the board?
Final thoughts is ready to go.
Not hearing from anybody. We'll move on into final thoughts. So let's go ahead and start them out with Case this week. Your final thoughts, Case.
Just going back to Racing Louisville FC, their jerseys are awesome.
Yeah.
Men in Blazers said that I think that they catapulted immediately into the top 10 of best American shirts of all time. So
yeah, that's a cool looking kit.
They look really great. So hopefully, number 13, Amina Ekic, can look just as good on the field as the uniforms did in her first game tonight. I'm not sure who's going to start. I haven't seen any team news come out for that one, but hopefully she can get a fair number of minutes and live up to the hype on that billboard and continue to be a hometown hero. I think it'll be really exciting. And it's always really exciting for the city of Louisville to bring a new professional sports team in. So looking forward to the support that Racing Louisville FC can get and hoping that eventually they can start showing them on local television. That'd be really great.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice to be able to watch what we cannot attend, that's for sure. Jared, final thoughts?
Yeah, they're not registered as a Division One program per se, but UofL Athletics still does technically own the UofL Cheer and Ladybirds. Want to give a little shout out to the small co-ed and all-girl cheer teams yesterday for winning NCAA, just the 1A, and that one national championships. A large co-ed finished third. Ladybirds got second in one of their divisions they did yesterday, and then they just finished performing a little bit ago for their other competition. So best of luck with the results on that one. But obviously, congrats to the two cheer teams for their national championships.
Congrats indeed to them, doing a fine job down there for the Cardinals. Certainly always a pleasure to watch. And when they're award winning, it makes it even that much more enjoyable for us all. Jeff, what's on your mind for finals?
Yeah, hopefully I will be in Omaha for the show next week, which is not to say we can't do it. I should be able to do the show from Omaha, no big deal. But plan on trying to gather the right set of gear that I need to do it. And yeah, hopefully I'll be reporting from remote. I mean, not like we're all not remote anyway, but you know, remote. And yeah, it's in the great Midwest. Central time zone.
Another challenge yet for the Cardinal Couple podcast as Jeff goes to another state, not finding what he wants here in this state. Run the Skype case will have no problem, of course, doing it on his versions that he puts on Anchor FM, so make sure and catch that as well. Both are great ways to listen. Yeah, you never really know what's going to happen with Anchor FM either, but one of those things that I kind of enjoyed that one as well, so we'll listen and see. As for me, on final thoughts, I've found out that later on today I'm going to have the Pegasus Parade in my neighborhood. What does that mean? That means that this year the city of Louisville, instead of having one location where thousands of people flock to watch it in these COVID-based times, is taking the Pegasus Parade or segments of it around to different communities in the Louisville area, and Fern Creek area is in that group as well. So if I hear a bunch of sirens and see something humongous floating down my street, I won't think that it was the mushrooms I took back in the 70s. It's the Pegasus Parade. How about that? It'll be cool. So we'll hopefully have some fun with that.
Better than a pop-up fireworks show.
Better than 5 guys in a Mazda shooting bottle rockets at your front window. That's going to be the extent of thunder over Louisville too, right? From what I understand, multiple locations, which
surprise
obviously
locations, which is a problem.
Especially if they pull up in front of a nursing home, that would be bad, right? Freaking all the people out there. But we'll be back this time next week from Omaha and Louisville combined, as Jeff hopefully is still in the city and will be able to tell us about the pursuits of volleyball. Until then, we'll see if you know something we don't, obviously. We hope to be here in other words, though, but have a great weekend of it, everybody, and certainly go Cards!